Okay, hello and welcome to the MSDynamicsWorld.com Spring 2014 CRM webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert, and joining us for today's event are Gretchen Oppertu and Nick Wassenberg of PowerObjects, an award-winning dynamic CRM partner based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and with multiple other offices. Gretchen is a returning speaker for us. She is PowerObjects Director of Education and a Microsoft MVP. Nick is PowerObjects Marketing Solutions Practice Director, and we are really glad to welcome them both today for this session on marketing technology choices. As we get started, I just want to add that Nick and Gretchen will be looking for your feedback today. There will be some polls for you to look for, and you'll also be able to use the chat block to share your input as well. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome our first speaker, Gretchen Oppertu, to get things started. Gretchen, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Thank you for having us here today. So Nick is going to be sharing our slide presentation and starting us out with the agenda for this webinar. The title is Marketing and Microsoft Dynamics CRM 5 Steps to Smarter Choices for Marketing Technology. And the agenda today is we are really going to go through the 5 steps, which are having a framework, number 1, for your decision, understanding your requirements, understanding what you have, understanding what is available, and doing a hands-on trial of your marketing options. We're also going to conclude with some do's and don'ts for this marketing technology. And we want to engage you throughout this presentation. Part of Nick and my desire is to actually get some contributions from you into the chat so that other people can learn from your successes and failures. So we're going to be asking you several things throughout this presentation and asking you to contribute. Before we get started in this agenda, I'm going to go through a little bit of an introduction of Nick and I. As Jason mentioned, we are with PowerObjects, and we are based in Minneapolis, although we have different offices throughout the United States. And I am the Director of Education at PowerObjects, meaning I lead our internal training as well as our customer training team. We have about 8 trainers that do customer training and internal training for our consultants. And I'm also a Dynamic CRM VP, my first time this year, and I'm on the CRM UG board. Actually, I'm currently down in Dallas participating in the regional CRM UG chapter meeting. So Nick, let me just hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
That means that I'm helping our customers get. I think I just got the audio. As you can see here, I'm the Marketing Solutions Practice Director here at PowerObjects, and so that means that I'm helping our customers connect their marketing technologies to CRM and getting the most value they can out of the different marketing tools that they're using. And so we'll talk about some of that today. In terms of my background, I've been doing marketing my entire career, so starting with running campaigns around the year 2000. So you can kind of do the math there, but I've been exposed to lots of different technologies and lots of different CRM systems and other solutions for marketing, and so I bring that kind of background, and now at PowerObjects helping people connect to the Dynamics CRM and the Dynamics family of products. So that's my role here.
Awesome, and we look forward to you contributing all of your experience and knowledge to this presentation. So a little bit of background on PowerObjects. We are a Dynamic CRM partner, meaning that we help organizations implement Dynamics CRM and, of course, Dynamics Marketing, as Nick just alluded to. We focus on 4 pillars. We've got that services pillar, which is the helping organizations with implementations, but we also have probably the biggest support desk outside of Microsoft for CRM. We've got a ton of support engineers working on helping customers with technical issues. And then we also have our education team, which I manage and help with training and education and user adoption. And then we have a number of add-ons in the marketplace. And so we have about 20 different add-ons in the marketplace focused on marketing, productivity, and those types of things. We are the Microsoft Worldwide Partner of the Year for the last 2 years, and so that's been a great privilege for us to carry that torch. Upcoming this fall, we do have our 2-day user conference, which is actually, it says 3 days of deep dive training. It's a 2-day conference with some pre-conference training offered. So very excited to be offering that and welcoming customers and people from around the world to help with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick for a little bit of background on this particular webinar.
Great, thanks Gretchen. In terms of background, I think it's important to kind of set the stage just a little bit for what makes some of the challenges that folks are going through in terms of implementing and choosing new technologies for doing marketing, especially aligned with their CRM system. I think there's some unique challenges in this space. And if you think about the evolution of marketing technology, you can think of it along the same lines as how other technology has evolved, except there's some unique things about it that I think make challenges distinct and make it a little bit more challenging. So if you think about marketing as a functional area and as a department, it kind of wasn't born necessarily out of technology, right? So along the past decades, we've had the creative process and we've had advertising and other pieces that were more right-brain kind of functions, and now we've added technology, and in that being more of a left-brain function, we've as marketers needed to adapt to that piece. And so the way that marketers do their daily work has changed from doing creative briefs to implementing and integrating technology systems. So a real change in what the daily work of marketers look like in a lot of cases. The other thing that's been a major trend, and I think touches all functions of organizations, but certainly includes marketing, is that the buyer and the customer are really in more control. They're in more control of what information they're consuming with the internet, and lots of studies around how much information people consume before they make that first outreach to sales. But as a marketing function, we can no longer control the conversation, and so people are getting information and getting the data that they need to make decisions out of our control. And so the buyer and the customer are in control, so that certainly changes what we can do as marketers and when we can actually engage. And so as a result of those two things, investment has really swayed. And so many of you are probably familiar with the findings that Gartner put out a couple years ago, that the CMO will outspend the CIO on IT by 2017. And so, simple fact that marketing technology is where a lot of investment is going. So the stakes are pretty high for both making the right choices and understanding the options that are out there so you can plan for the future of investment and the future of your strategy. So as a result, as it says, marketing technology more important and more complicated than ever before. Some of what's driving that complication and that complexity is what we'll look at next. So many of you may have already seen this marketing technology landscape slide. This is a depiction that was put together by a blogger that really just represents, I think, a lot of different ways to slice and dice what's out there in terms of marketing vendors and marketing solutions. But the takeaway is there's lots of choices, right? So there's choices in terms of what our marketing experience is going to look like, how our marketing operations are going to be formulated, and what tools we're going to use to do some of those those pieces of the process. We also have things like infrastructure and backbone platforms and middleware that all connects the pieces of our marketing to the rest of the organization, to sales, to service, et cetera. So it's a holistic effort, but it typically uses many different solutions, and there's many different choices to be made in terms of what we want to actually apply to doing our day-to-day work as marketers. So the complexity is certainly there, and it's only going to get more complicated as we add more channels, as we add more solutions, as the next wave of kind of customer behavior and prospect behavior continues to evolve, we're going to continue to need to address those different options that we have. So we need to have a plan in place and a way to address that. So that's really what we're going to try and frame up for you here today. So in essence, you know, the thinking is that the future we never actually arrive to the future in terms of marketing. There's always going to be that next evolution in channels, the next evolution in buyer behavior, the next evolution in what people are going to be receptive to in terms of technologies and in terms of messaging. So we can never really get there, but we need to be adaptive to continue to add and to continue to build our marketing strategy and tactics, build on that as a competitive advantage. So having, again, that framework is what we're really all about and what we're trying to achieve here today. So to start off with that framework, I want to toss it back to Gretchen so she can get us started on this framework.
Sounds great, Nick. So we will be starting out here with step 1, having a framework for making decisions. And to start with, we're actually going to have you add in some of your experience with this discussion. So we would like you to go ahead and add into the chat. And to access the chat, you will probably need to go up to the top bar that's been minimized while Nick is showing his screen and click chat, and that will open up the chat window. We would love to hear, how have technology decisions been made in your organization? What kind of successes and failures have you experienced, could be in your organization, previous organizations, that you can share with the group? And while I'm sharing these next few slides, Nick's going to be reading your comments, and we'll come back around at the end of this section and get some of your input into this topic. So let's start with talking a little bit about the framework. We're going to touch on some different parts of the framework in this presentation. I actually like simple things. I like a simple framework where when we're looking at marketing technologies, what we really want to look at is just who, what, when, where, why. It should be easy to remember. I think you might have learned that in grade school. So when we want to talk about in this section is really who, when, and why, Nick is going to circle back around on gathering your requirements, and he is going to talk about the what and the where in terms of making sure that you've got the right technologies that you're planning. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the who. So here's where you're at. If you're looking for marketing technology, you probably need it now, and you need to be getting results from it yesterday. And that's a huge problem when we're looking at marketing technology, because a lot of times we rush into things because we need to get results. We need to tell people that we're making progress. So even going through a decision-making process is a lot of times seems like a slowdown. And when you're looking at marketing technology, you have this feeling of, I don't know what I don't know. The field is so big. There's so many solutions out there. How am I going to get my fingers on the right solution? And the stakes are very high for you. You probably need to show results as a marketer, and you may have some personal responsibility for that. So what I want to encourage you to do is take a step back and just take a few simple steps to making in those marketing technology decisions. The first step we want you to look at is who. Who is going to be impacted? First and foremost, the customer is going to be impacted by this decision. So ultimately, we want this decision to wrap around the customer experience and what the customer is going to see, and the prospect, of course, that you're trying to engage. You also want to consider who in your organization could get involved in this decision. And I want to encourage you not to make the decision alone. If you're looking at marketing technology, try to find 2 to 3 other people who would be stakeholders, who would have the customer in mind, who would understand technology or be able to understand, you know, what would be custom development versus what can I do with the hands-on tool set and those types of things if you don't have that understanding. So make sure to add 2 to 3 people to your decision-making team. Make a small commitment to doing an evaluation process together. So the next thing that we want to look at is why. Why would you make this decision? So I encourage you, you don't have to build out huge documents, or possibly you don't even need to hire an outside vendor to do a huge selection process for you. You may just want to jot down 3 to 4 bullet points, or maybe 5 or 6 bullet points of what are the critical success factors of your marketing technology. So what are the expected results of the marketing technology, and what are the expectations of the use of the technology and how it will operate? So a good way to start out making critical success factors is to just start a sentence that says, this technology or this project will be a success if ... or it will be a success when, and fill in the blank. Another thing that you can do as you start to write those critical success factors is say, we will be able to do X when we're done with this. And you might put, in the when category, you might put some emphasis on when you expect to get those critical success factors. So not all of your critical success factors are going to be realized within a month or 2 of implementing a marketing technology. Some of them are going to take time. And so you might say something like, after 6 months, we will be able to do X or see X information about our customers, our prospects. So those are things that you want to get started. The next area in the framework that I want to address is when, and that is just discussing using a phased approach. So we want to make sure that you take on a realistic scope. That is one of the lessons learned with organizations in these marketing technologies, is they may do 9 or 10 things or more. And so you're not going to be able to adopt and use all 10 of those things, but maybe setting up to say, you know, within the next 3 months, we want to be doing this and this and this. In 3 to 6 months, we want to be using these technologies. And so plan to layer in your adoption of these things. Don't necessarily plan to take everything on at once. And so that's all the advice I have on the framework. I'd like to just circle back around and see if we've got some advice coming in from our audience.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, part of what we're hearing with a lot of the comments is the idea to focus on the audience and focus on the channels and kind of take that as a framework of who are we going to be communicating with and who are we going to be marketing to, and then adding in the channels that they're going to be most receptive to responding to and to having as where the message lives, having those channels in line with the audience, which I think is a great point, and we'll get into some of that in more detail going forward. But I think that's one that we saw a couple times here. We also are hearing people calling out what best practices are out there. So looking to people that have kind of been there and done that to understand the best practices. That was another comment. And then we had at least one person comment that they were just getting started. So they really were starting to build out this framework and understand what kind of technologies were out there and really getting the framework started. So we're at the beginning of a process, and it's tough to say what they've learned to this point, but they're ready to get going, and the first step is learning how the process will fit together for their needs. So those are that's a quick summary of what we heard, and reminder that as you're adding, because we'll ask at least one more chat question as we go here, remember to just make it, send your chats to all panelists so we can all see them as we're in the tool here, and we can respond or add them to the comments that are coming in. So, but that's great. I mean, the other piece that I wanted to add in is some of the things that we hear commonly when we ask this type of question, or when we are talking to customers that have gone through a similar process. Some of the common things that we hear are that sometimes you see so much out there in terms of technology that you tend to take on too much at once. And sometimes another piece that we hear is that there's so many features that it gets complicated in a hurry, and there's too much complexity to really iron out, and it slows down the process at the front end. And so from that, kind of related is we hear a lot of times that really people just want kind of the core functionality and then to build on that going forward. So those three are kind of related, those three kind of common areas of what we hear, and then some of the result of that can be that we end up with more silos than anticipated. So the problem there, of course, is when we add more complexity, sometimes we just we take the shortcut and add silos rather than integrating the system overall. So another kind of set of things that we hear from time to time that I think we're worth bringing up to the conversation here. So thanks everybody that participated in the chat, and we'll have, again, some more opportunities for interaction as we go here, but it's always good to hear from you all and hear what's actually happening in your worlds as well. So from that, I want to move on and past the framework that Gretchen laid out and move on to step 2. And so step 2 is kind of understanding what your current and future requirements look like in terms of marketing technology. And so we'll look at some examples of how that can come together. But again, wanted to start this section off with a poll question. So I think there we go. Jason has just entered a poll, so be sure and click your response there, and we'll come back to those responses and just see how the audience is responding to the question, how prepared do you feel for your future marketing technology needs? So you can see the responses there, so please speak up, and we'll have a summary of kind of taking a temperature check of where folks are at in terms of how prepared they feel for their future needs. So, you know, as we think about helping folks and understanding the current needs for marketing technology, you know, I tend to look to some third-party research in terms of if we have current needs now, what do those current needs look like, and how do we help align those with what we need now and what we may need in the future. I found some data points that were actually pretty instructive in terms of where a lot of people are in terms of making marketing technology choices. So there's kind of a paradox happening here. We've got 40% of features in marketing automation systems going unused, and so people using only part of what their systems offer for one reason or another. Could be, you know, based on what they need, what their audience is going to be receptive to, et cetera. And then the other data point that's interesting on top of that is that 25% feel that their current system lacks features that they do need. So we're not using all the features we have, but there's features that we don't have that we would like to have, right? So there's that paradox of actual features, core requirements, and going beyond what those core requirements are to really get down to what those needs are. And so that was part of what I wanted to highlight here, and part of what I think a lot of marketing folks are challenged with, and part of what technology people in general are challenged with, is understanding what features we're going to need and then choosing the right solutions that are going to be in line with that. So in terms of the current state and in terms of those core needs, you know, the guidance that I think is helpful here is to just take some of the core functionality, some of the base, we need this kind of functionality, and pin it on 3 different dimensions. And so you can see on the left side here, we've got email, bulk marketing emails. We've got email nurturing that may be triggered on an event or triggered on some kind of form submission. We have web forms. We have landing pages. We have lead scoring. We have social posting, posting to social media, and we have lead management. So when does a lead get converted and marked as sales ready and then routed or assigned to a salesperson to that next step. And then we have web traffic, so understanding what our customers and leads are doing on the web in between the time that we have a chance to interact with them. So there's those kind of core dimensions, and I think, you know, for the most part, and there'll be exceptions to this, but for the most part, these are kind of the core pieces of functionality that people need when they think about doing marketing in 2014. So when we think about those core needs, we need to think about what's our process definition. So before we get to the step of applying tools and making choices about what tools make the most sense, do we have a process in place that's going to be ready and really streamlined enough to apply these different pieces. So letting, again, the process drive what technology choices we make as opposed to letting the technology dictate the process. But once we can define that process, and we'll take a look at some examples of this in a minute, once we can define that process, we can then select the tools that are going to be the right fit. So again, if we're thinking about current state, what's our current state process, and what tools do we have now that can help us address that process from a marketing technology standpoint? And once we have those two things in line and have a good understanding of that, then we can start to add in metrics, and we can understand what metrics do we have now that are informing what we're doing from a marketing standpoint moving forward. So do we have the email metrics that we need to understand what's working and what's not? Do we have information about whether our web form submissions are qualifying as leads for sales and so forth? So what metrics are we using to help identify where some gaps might be or where our strategy should be steered towards? So so that's kind of the framework, and I would encourage you to address those kind of core needs to understand the current state of your programs. In terms of adding new functionality, so once we identify what the current state looks like and what needs might still be in place based on those current needs, we can start to add things. And this is what we call our impact template to try and identify what the best path forward is for adding new technologies to our current mix. And so the way that I like to frame this up is to, again, start with the business need in the upper left, and then to address that business need, we're going to need to apply some marketing strategy. So if we wanted to build brand awareness in line with a specific product line or specific offering, we may apply a marketing strategy of doing content marketing that is mixing in keywords that are in line with that specific offering and the way that the audience thinks about that, getting that solution. So the business need is supported by the marketing strategy, which in turn is supported by the marketing tactics, the marketing tools, and the marketing metrics. So again, building in a step-by-step approach to always pulling this back up to understanding the business need that we have and applying the tactics and the tools and the metrics to execute on that. The piece that I think is important from PowerObjects perspective is to continue to have CRM as the hub of where those tactics, tools, and metrics live and are identified and are visible, because that's what informs your strategy and informs how that strategy is going to tie back into the business need. So as you think about adding things to the current mix of marketing tools and marketing tactics, you can always have this impact template as a starting point, and it's kind of simplified on purpose. As Gretchen said, keeping it simple helps us identify what tactics, tools, and metrics are going to really add to our marketing strategy and add to the results that we're going to be able to achieve. So once we've kind of added to our mix or identified areas where we can add to our mix, then we can start to understand what our future requirements are going to look like. And so the framework that is helpful for this is kind of a two-prong approach to understanding both your buyers and then understanding your own process. And so some of these will be familiar to you. I'm sure some of you out there will already have had examples of this in place, which is great, and that's part of what you can use to frame up future decisions. And so the first one of these kind of frameworks that I think is important is along the lines of a buyer's journey. So understanding a map of those key steps that leads a person or an account to purchase or conversion in some way. So that can be, the path from awareness to becoming a lead, to becoming a sales qualified lead, to becoming an opportunity and going through that sales cycle. So again, everybody that makes it to that final stage has gone through some sort of journey, and so mapping that out using the data that you have in CRM and using the data that you know about your customers is helpful to inform, and we'll take a look at how this is helpful to inform what marketing technology you'll need moving forward. So as we know, there's lots of studies that have shown that how much research is done before a buyer enters the sales cycle. This is one that I pulled out, that 79% business-to-business buyers start with a web search. So the first thing many folks do when they want, no matter what the product is they're looking for, they'll do a search. So they're looking for reviews, they're looking for data, they're looking for information and a comparison of what their different options are as they do their research on their own. So that, oftentimes that means that can be the first step in their buyer's journey. So again, from a marketing perspective, we need to understand that, and we need to have that as part of the mapping that we're doing. When we think about how marketing technology and CRM fits into this framework, CRM's role is really to provide visibility and frame up the process that happens. So what can we react to as an organization based on this buyer's journey? What interactions are happening along that way, and what can we do to affect or shape the map of that journey? From a marketing systems perspective, we're facilitating some of that customer learning. So we may be using marketing as a way to enable folks learning what we want them to know about our product offering, what we want them to know about our message, and of course, marketing systems from an automation standpoint can really lead to that sales qualification and lead to just automating some of those processes and delivering the metrics along those different stages. So if we think about that in terms of the buyer's journey, the second side of that coin is to really think about a demand funnel or a demand waterfall. So again, probably something that many of you have in place already, something that is vital for understanding how the sales process interacts with the marketing process, so something to tie those pieces together. And really it's a diagram, it's a key set of steps or handoffs in terms of how leads are coming in and how customers are shaped. And so again, this is separate from the buyer's journey because this is the steps that our organization is taking and the metrics that we can apply to those different steps. So we're aligning the marketing process, we're aligning the different metrics and stages with our qualification and sales process. From a technology standpoint, CRM provides the visibility and accountability to when that handoff happens or when those handoffs happen and what those metrics look like. So we're getting everybody to be in agreement about what makes for a sales qualified lead, and so that is part of what CRM provides visibility to, since it's a tool that's used primarily by sales or that sales is in on a daily basis. Our marketing system automates some of those transitions and again provides data and insight into the earlier stages. So the marketing system could be where you're gathering information about inbound leads and inbound communications and tracking some of that web behavior that's before we've identified that this person really has a distinct need and that they're sales qualified. So if we put those two frameworks together, we can see in purple down at the bottom, we can see how the marketing system and the CRM system interact and where we can layer those in to address both the journey that the buyer is taking as well as our waterfall of stages along our sales process, our marketing and sales process. So if we think about those two models, we can start to address where the gaps might be. So if we know we've got our sales process defined in CRM, but we're not as clear on where our awareness and research is happening for buyers along that front end, that's where we may need to apply some marketing tools and some marketing efforts in terms of understanding that piece of the process and then figuring out where the technology gaps could be. And so, again, I would encourage you to use these two frameworks in the way that makes sense for your processes as a way to say, where are the gaps in our marketing systems? Are they gaps in our marketing system, or are they gaps in how our marketing system talks to CRM, or are they gaps in our CRM process? So again, the left to right stream of what's happening with buyers is consistent. How we react to them is in our waterfall or our sales process, and having those two spelled out and clearly defined is really how we build out an effective way to apply technology. So with that in mind, we've got kind of the idea of understanding what the current and future needs will be. We need to first start out with a gap analysis, and part of what Gretchen's going to show next is having a way to identify where those gaps are, and by doing that we can start with what marketing tools are inside of Dynamic CRM, so we can take a closer look at that as a way to frame up where those gaps might be. And so that's where we'll go next, and I will pass it back to Gretchen.
Thanks, Nick, for that wonderful insight. Did you want to circle back around on that poll to talk a little bit about the results?
Yeah, unfortunately, and Jason, you may be able to oh, here we go. So we've got our results are in. So most people, let's see, can everybody see this polling area? Maybe not, but nobody said that they were in a great place. The second choice was, are you in a good place? And that was about 16%. 11% of folks said they were in a fair place or they were kind of treading water a little bit. 7% said that they were in a place that maybe wasn't so great, that they had some gaps identified and they knew that they needed to make some changes to do better, and they needed to make some additions to get their marketing systems lined up. And then the largest area was that folks are new. They're just getting started in applying new tools, or they're doing research aligned with where their gaps might be. So there's the largest group of folks on this call, and I think this is consistent throughout what we hear, is that lots of people need to add things, and they're just getting started with selecting what tools are going to make the most sense. So lots of people at the early stage here.
All right. So actually, I'm going to open up my section of step 3 with understanding what you have, understanding the built-in marketing capabilities of CRM, so you can start that gap analysis that Nick talked about. And I do want to start out with a little bit of a poll here as well to understand, are you currently using the tools inside of CRM only? Are you using the tools inside or outside of CRM? And are you using tools integrated with CRM or nothing? So I'd just like to find out a little bit. And this poll we'll just leave open here for 15 more seconds, and then I will talk a little bit about the results that have come in. So it would be great to just know where people are at. We find quite a bit of people do not use the out-of-the-box CRM or don't necessarily know what the out-of-the-box CRM's marketing capabilities are. And I've even heard in some presentations people say the out-of-the-box marketing stinks or something negative like that. And I actually don't think that's true at all. So I'd love to show you a little bit about it. Let's take a look at the results of that poll and see what people said here.
And we'll need about 5 more seconds before I can bring those up.
Okay.
Oh,
awesome.
Now see it.
Great. Thanks, Jason. So it looks like a bunch of, the majority of people, around 50% of the people on this webinar said that they're using a mix of the tools, so a mix of marketing tools and out-of-the-box CRM. So excited to hear that some people are engaged in using some of the out-of-the-box CRM. So let me start by just talking a little bit about what comes out of the box with CRM. And the thing that I want to draw everybody's attention to is that CRM is really a place where sales and marketing collaborate. So we want to make sure that people understand that marketing people do a lot more than what CRM does. So what I don't like is when people say that the out-of-the-box marketing area stinks, because I think they're expecting that the out-of-the-box marketing area would handle everything that marketers do. And really that's not the intention. The marketing area, though it's labeled marketing, is really about that sales and marketing collaboration. So next I just want to talk a little bit about that. If you could go to the next slide, Nick, where we show the architecture of the sales and marketing collaboration in CRM. So if you think about a particular lead or prospect that you are engaging, and you think about that prospect, I'm going to call him Gary Smith. Gary Smith sees an ad that you've put out on a web browser, and he clicks on this ad, he goes to a landing page, and he fills out a form interested in downloading something related to your product or service. That comes into CRM. In addition, he later, a couple months later, is browsing your website and also fills out a form to register for an event. And then when you see Gary Smith at a trade show or event, he also stops by your booth, you scan his badge, and he ends up in your CRM system. All three of those touches with Gary Smith would come in to your CRM system as a campaign response. And if Gary is already in your system as a lead or an account or contact, that campaign response would associate with him. So you have a single person and you have multiple connections or multiple touches to that person. On that first response, you can then convert that response either to a lead or to an opportunity directly, or you can take any of those responses and convert them. So this is where the interaction between sales and marketing happens in CRM, is the use of tracking these inbound campaigns. So Nick, if you can go to the next slide where we talk a little bit about the marketing in CRM. What I tell people to do, or marketing to do in CRM, is I tell them to basically create campaigns in CRM for any spend that marketing is making. So if you're spending on your website, if you're spending on an event, if you're spending on an advertising campaign, that you would create a campaign for each of those. And just by doing that, you can start collecting the leads and campaign responses that are coming in from this spend. So you can take those events, that advertising, the web forms or the web-based things, and bring those into CRM. From there, you can get a simple ROI, and I will show you that. You can also take those people that are coming in as leads, or those responses that are coming in, and you can build lists with those people. And you can do outbound marketing with CRM. So you can do things like phone calls or call downs. You can do small emails or mailing. You can do mail merges with them. When people say or kind of downplay the abilities of CRM, this is the area that they're focused on. Basically, the out-of-the-box CRM is designed for smaller groups of people, possibly even a salesperson doing their own one-to-many communications, but not large-scale for marketing teams. So if you're going to do an email out of CRM, you're probably looking at maybe doing, not more than a couple hundred. You can't measure the opens, the clicks, and those types of things. It's really meant for that personal communication. And also, call downs and things like that can definitely be done with CRM. So the marketing and sales, you can see from what I'm telling you here that the marketing and sales collaboration is really what we're focusing on in CRM marketing. If you go to the next slide, we can show you the marketing analytics that you can just get out of CRM just based on what I'm telling you. So you should be able to track with CRM what are the different responses to the campaigns that I'm doing, what are the different leads that are coming in, and what is the revenue that is coming in from these different sources. And then also keeping track of your marketing lists and the different people that you are targeting, how many people are on each of those lists. So where people do get confused is in the advanced marketing area, and we want to just talk to that for a little bit. We at PowerObjects, when we talk to marketers, we never tell marketers CRM is going to solve all your problems, because CRM comes into play when you actually know who you're talking to and you have some interaction between sales and marketing in that regard. But marketers, 80% of their job is getting that person, right, getting that prospect. And so they spend all of their time building awareness of your products and services, doing ads and viral campaigns, making sure that people can find your products and services, which is a huge job, and then building places in all of the different ways that marketers can engage with prospects and get them into your CRM system. Then the last mile is how you market to them, right? So we want to make sure that we're not saying, yep, CRM marketing team, saying to marketers, CRM is going to help you with your entire job. Nope, just part of your job, just that last mile of connecting with the sales team. So that is what the foundation that we are starting from when we start to evaluate other technologies that help you with that 80% of your job. And so I'm going to hand it back over to Nick to talk about the exciting world of those other technologies.
Great, thanks, Gretchen. We're on to step 4. So 4 of 5 here. We're getting ready to understand what's out there. And so we saw, on that kind of our chart earlier before, showing all the vendors and all the solutions and all the ways that we can interact with customers from a marketing standpoint. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of vendors out there, and that list will continue to get longer. There'll be some consolidation, but customers and leads will continue to evolve in terms of what channels are most important to them and they'll be most responsive to. So we need to understand what's available now and understand how it can fit into our current mix and how it fits into CRM. So if we think about just understanding what can be our foundation for success, building on what Gretchen told us, the systems and features in CRM for marketers and the different marketing systems will continue to evolve, and just to have it said, there's no system that will create your marketing strategy. There's no system that will, give you a laser focus on what your process is going to be. And so you need to let your process and your business needs dictate the way you apply that technology. And so our recommendation is that you look for that core functionality, match the needs that are there from a core perspective as well as your unique needs to the specialized tools that are out there in the marketplace, and make sure that, again, as we showed before, that CRM remains the foundation of how you can evaluate what's working and what's actually leading to the conversions that you want. I added this purple box just to have it said, this is just a fact of life that, since a lot of these marketing tools and automation platforms and systems that are on the market were spawned from marketers themselves, they're actually very good at telling stories and making the case for investment in their products. And that's, I don't say that as a bad thing. It's just something that we need to be aware of as we make decisions, that we need to understand what the reality is and how it fits in with our reality, really. So in terms of thinking about the core functionality, and we looked at a list of what the core functionality was like in a previous slide, but let's look at some real examples. And so these are, on the left side, we've got kind of core features, core functions that are important to people doing marketing and connecting it back to CRM. So we need to understand, can a system sync to CRM, and can it sync to the CRM instance in the situation that we're in? And so that's obviously something that's important to consider. Can it segment based on CRM data? So can it take the data that's in CRM and use that for segmentation and use that to understand our audience? Can we send and track email? Can we send and track triggered email? So can we use the systems to interact with our audience in a direct way, in an outbound way, using email? Can we post to social media from our tool? Can we manage our events? Can we track people's behavior on the web? Can we score leads? So can we evaluate how ready someone might be to enter into a sales cycle? Can we establish and sync web forms back to CRM from our landing pages on our website? And can we know what the costs are going to look like for a particular solution? So note on this, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list of features and functionality for each of these platforms, but the point of what I'm showing here is that there's actually quite a bit of core functionality that is uniform across different solutions. Obviously, there's other columns we could add here. These are just a sample of what's available in terms of marketing automation connected to dynamic CRM for this specific audience. But we've got lots of options, and from a core functionality standpoint, a lot of parity in terms of what's available. You'll see there's some pricing differences and obviously different ways that these different solutions go to market, but from a core perspective, there's definitely an even playing field in a lot of ways for the solutions that are out there, because if they didn't have the core functionality down, they wouldn't exist, right? So some things to keep in mind there. As we move into kind of building on unique needs, there's another way to look at this. So each of these systems has some set that's unique to them, right? And so this is another thing that Again, not meant to be an exhaustive list of what sets each of these apart. Obviously, there's other solutions we could add to this list, other features we could add to this list as well. But the point of this is when we're looking at specific unique features that we may need to apply to our marketing, again, based on our process and based on our business needs, some of these solutions will be better fits than others. So that's where the nuance comes in, and the next step of vetting these solutions and how they're going to interact with our process really comes into play. And so the ones that I would call out, there's functional aspects, and like, managing projects, managing files, managing marketing requests from folks outside the marketing department. So some solutions are more catered to that type of interactivity, multi-departmentally or multifunctionally. And then there's also the way that you would both start to use or trial these solutions can be different as well. So if you look at, does it have a click, try, subscribe model? Can I actually trial this full product for a period of time? Can I pick only the pieces of this solution that I need? That's another distinction that not everyone offers. And can I look to a dynamic CRM partner to really help me apply this tool in a structured way? So again, point here is there's lots of solutions, and what I would encourage you to do is have a set of core functionality that you need and use that as your starting point. And then the next step is to identify what unique needs you might need, that you might have in terms of marketing technology, and use that as another piece of how you're going to identify what the best fit is. And then use the hands-on trial, which Gretchen will speak to in a second here, to really identify what works well for you and your team and your skill sets on your teams for actually using these and putting these into practice. So that's the kind of the framework for, we know that there's other solutions out there. We saw the list of 900 plus vendors. Which ones are actually going to provide value in the places that we need them, and which ones fit into our process the best. So in terms of doing a hands-on trial, I'll toss it back to Gretchen, and she can speak to the best practices here.
All right, thanks, Nick. Kind of stole my thunder there with the step 5, do the hands-on trial.
Sorry.
All right, just using you. So this is a short step, just admonishing you to do hands-on, dig into the details. So the devil is in the details with these types of decisions. And if you go, as Nick said, to each of these solutions websites, you're going to see the same nice-looking icons, the same marketing language, because these marketing solutions are developed by marketers, right? So it is sometimes hard as a decision maker selecting marketing technology to really see behind the buzzwords, right? So we've all got scoring. Everybody's got email tracking and web analytics, but what does that actually mean? So I'm encouraging you to actually get your hands on each of the solutions and see if you can do some testing of each solution. I would pick probably the top 2 to 3 front runners for your selection and do that. And in your evaluation, you really want to focus on those details. For example, some marketing solutions will say, hey, we can do dynamic content. Wow, that sounds great. How hard is it to do dynamic content? Do you have to hire a high school student who knows how to code in order to get that dynamic content to work for you, or the click and drag, or how do you make your list, or how do you group your list? So obviously you want to look at that user experience. Is the complexity of the solution simple enough or for your organization and the skill sets that you have there? You want to look at the results that you're going to get, the analytics, and make sure they align with your key critical success factors. You want to make sure that CRM is tightly integrated with CRM, or that your marketing solution is integrated with CRM such that you can get the segmentation that you want. I've seen this quite a lot with these marketing solutions that you might want to do a segmentation like this. I would like to do a outreach or a marketing to everybody who has had this service or everybody who has had this product. And that information is in your CRM system, but you have no way of getting that segmented list into the marketing solution. So let's look closely at the types of specific use cases that you have and whether the tightness of the integration between that marketing solution is going to work for you. So the last thing I would say is just that investment in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. As these marketing solutions pop up, sometimes they are focused on integrating with all of the CRM systems across the board, or many different CRM systems. What that means is probably one guy or one gal in their organization has built that integration with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So if you want to call that company and ask them about their integration with CRM, some of the people that answer that phone may not even know what CRM is or what Microsoft Dynamics CRM is. So you really want to look at organizations that have that long-term investment in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. They know what it is. They have people who support it. They've got documentation. And they're going to be the ones who are going to be around in 5 years to support you with that solution. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick to talk a little about the do's and don'ts of this whole thing.
Yeah, and this was going to be another opportunity for you all to give us some pointers on what you've learned over time in terms of do's and don'ts. So again, if you could enter any do's and don'ts or any things that you've learned in applying different technologies in the chat feature, we can summarize those towards the end of our presentation here. And I realize we're getting close to the end, so we'll need to move quickly. But yeah, please use the chat feature to let us know what do's and don'ts you've experienced over time. In terms of kind of our thinking and what we've helped customers do in terms of executing on marketing technologies, you know, we think getting there faster is a way to think about how to add incrementally and how to really have a framework that's going to help you get those pieces in place and start seeing results. So that means starting with a comprehensive vision and really taking incremental action. So we looked at that impact template as a way to say, what's our business need, what's our marketing strategy in line with that need, and in what tools, metrics, and tactics can we apply to that need. The other thing is, you know, rather than predicting what's next, you know, have ourselves a strong foundation built on CRM that's going to help us prepare to adapt, because we don't know which channel is going to emerge in the future that's going to resonate with our audience. So we need to have some bandwidth to do that adaptation and to be nimble enough to add different channels and to add different pieces to our marketing mix. And so, again, let's think about mastering the fundamentals. Let's add that incremental change over time based on how our strategy is changing. Apply a proven process, which we'll take a look at here in 1 minute, to understand what our needs are and how we're going to actually roll things out. And as always, use data to measure our inputs and measure the return on the efforts that we're making. And so, quick look at how PowerObjects sees this proven process work in terms of getting new technologies applied or migrating from one solution to another. You know, we go through a 5-step process. The first is, you know, evaluating what our needs are. So we work with you to get a consensus of what your needs are and helping you clarify what those needs are based on, again, your business strategy and your marketing strategy within that framework. Then we set up a plan for success. So in this stage, we're gathering detailed requirements, defining what those roles are, who the players are, and setting that plan. And then the next step is design and build and validate. So actually using what we've heard and what we know to be true in those requirements to build out the actual technology and infrastructure. And then we train and deploy. So again, having people adoption on the front end is key. So having the tools in place, aligning them with your process, and then deploying that in a way that's going to ensure adoption. And then having lifecycle in mind. So what's going to be needed, again, as we continue to adapt and as we continue to add to our mix, what pieces are we going to want to add, and when does that come into the next phase of a project, right? So that's our framework. That's what we use in, you know, all the work that we do with CRM and all the work that we do with different solutions that connect with CRM. So we've gotten some comments on the different do's and don'ts. And so lots of, a few comments around let's keep it simple, keep it as simple as possible to implement the next tool, to understand what tool is going to be next, and having documentation and a process that's going to be documented along those same lines is important too. So those are some common things that we see in the chat here today, and that we also see from time to time. The other ones that I added here to this list, just so we made sure and touch on them, don't make a big purchase just because you need a small piece of functionality to do marketing. So think about it in terms, again, that incremental framework can be helpful. Having that framework for how you make decisions like this, again, we touched on that quite a bit, but again, stressing that as a best practice, having a framework to make your next decision is important. And then, you're the only one that can really understand your process in depth, so you need to take ownership of where your gaps are, or at least have a way to understand what pieces are going to make sense. So you need a team of people that could potentially own that project and understand where the pieces fit. I would also encourage, get mastery of the fundamentals. So that means building out the skills internally that are going to help you execute on marketing and help you understand where you have bandwidth to add new pieces and new tactics. And as always, our point of view is to keep CRM the foundation of your strategy and your tactics and insight from not only a marketing standpoint, but a sales and service standpoint as well. So CRM is really the foundation of how you run your business, and so the marketing tools should support that and connect to that to enable that going forward. And so that brings us up exactly on the hour. So I guess thank you all again for being with us. I think Gretchen mentioned this in the chat, or Jason did, if you want the slides, just feel free to send me an email and request them, and I'll get you those. And then if you have other questions, Gretchen and I are here to serve, and so just let us know. Gretchen, did you have any other closing thoughts?
No, I absolutely appreciate all the participation via chat, and definitely reach out to us if you have any additional questions.
All right, Nick and Gretchen, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks to everyone in the audience for all the input and interactive experience here. Please do look for the survey that will pop up when we end the session. We really appreciate your feedback there too. So on that note, I'm going to close things out. Thanks so much for attending today, and have a great day.